Doc, talk to me. Where are we?
We are currently in the middle of Irvine at a little establishment that is now a Shell station, but used to be known as Campus Gas. It was a great job in from the late 80s to the early 90s. There was a few of us in the scene that worked here. It was quite a
Didn't Popeye's brother, wasn't he the guy that kind of hired all you guys, or no?
So what happened was the original setup was Jay, Popeye's brother, got a job here as the manager. I was out of high school and between jobs, so he hired me as the assistant manager, as I was the only one of us out of high school at the time. Then immediately after, Mike, Popeye, came on board. Once Mike got on board, we had Brian Goodson, Jeff Goodson, Paul Simon, Brian Chu, Keith McCullough, Mark Lee, John Lee, Ryan Lee, and I think that's the majority. I could be leaving a couple people out, but that was the core of the crew. Was
Hayworth brothers never worked
the
here?
Hayworth brothers never worked here, but the beauty of this place was the Hayworths and Mark Lee lived right over there. Brian Chu lived over that way. I lived over that way. Oh, there was another kid, Chris Bound, who he was into it for a while, and then his younger brothers wound up getting into the scene, and I believe that's how Steve Aoki got introduced to Farside, was through Chris Bound's brother.
So Chris Bound has two brothers, Gabe.
Twin brothers.
The twin brothers. Okay, yeah. Okay.
And then they
I never knew that there was an older one. I just knew of the Bound brothers. I never knew that there was...
I was friends with the older one, which is how I think the twins got involved with hardcore, was through Chris and his record collection that I kind of the mixtapes that I was making him. And then at one point, the twins, and then they brought some dude over, some guy named Steve, over to my house to buy a bunch of old vinyl. And I remember, and then it turned out it was Steve Aoki, and he became Steve Aoki later, whatever. But I know he bought token entry albums from me, and a couple of Youth of the Days. And when I wound up selling off my record collection, he bought a whole bunch of it. But yeah, so we all worked here at some point, and it's half of the people lived right here in the neighborhood. The other half lived on the other side, so this was a great meeting point for going to shows. At the time, there's a lot more parking stripes than there were when I worked here. But yeah, this is a legitimate gas station now. At the time, it was just there was nothing but
Was everything over there? Why do I remember it was sort of back here? Or no.
This is the placement, but there was a big berm that went around the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So you could, if you were here, it was, you were in it, but you couldn't see it from the outside, and none of the UCI housing was here. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, and so this was a good place to park your cars, and then we'd all meet up and caravan or carpool to the country club or Fenders or Spankies or whatever. Got off
leaving your cars in this parking lot.
Oh yeah, we'd leave.
You guys ran the place.
We ran the place,
but nobody cared.
And nobody was coming in here because you couldn't see it from the street. It was a big berm and a wall, so nobody really knew we were here. Nobody came here. And truth be told, for a while, Mike's Corvette summer pickup truck that he had in the beginning phases of Farside, one of his first cars to break down, broke down right here. And so that was parked here for several weeks, maybe a month, I don't know. At some point I wound up living in it for a couple of days. It was an awesome orange and brown and yellow racing stripe. It was right out of the movie Corvette Summer. It was a piece of machinery, man.
And it was right over there in that kind of area that you talked Rob Hayworth into, hey, why don't you contact Popeye?
Yes. So when we worked here, there's all these vending machines and whatnot, and those weren't here. It was just the pumps and that one little booth. And so I was working, my shifts were typically Sunday night closing shift and then Monday morning opening shift. And I believe it was a Sunday night. Rob was coming back from a band practice with Bob and Josh Stanton. And Rob.
Did they have any kind of singer or no?
They did not at that time. It was just the three of them, and Rob was trying to put something together, and it was kind of a work in progress. They had only had a couple of practices and just kind of gotten to know each other as far as how their music worked and stuff. And so he stopped here on his way home because, like I said, he only lived a couple miles up the street, and I probably gave him free gas or something because that tended to happen once in a while.
Could guys walk in and just eat anything? Like if you knew the guy,
there wasn't anything to eat.
Oh, okay.
We literally, it was a booth with a toilet in the back that was, and I'm sure it's still there and gross. And then a vending machine that had orange soda, and that was in the back. That wasn't even in. It wasn't where you could see it from the booth. But we had. So it was before the pay first days, or you would pump your gas before you paid for it, and so we had.
It's amazing that things used to be that way.
Yeah, and we had a credit card machine that you had to like chink chink, like back and forth with it. But and so every once in a while somebody would come in and get a couple gallons of gas, and then they'd go home, and we had these empty slips. We called them run out slips, and we would just say like, oh, guy came, pumped gas, and left. He ran out on us. And so we would just do like a run out slip, whoever it was, Rob or Chris or whoever came by. Oh, so and so, and it was always a white lowered mini truck with one of those horseshoe TV antennas. That was and every day. So anyway, so Rob came by, probably got a couple gallons of gas, whatever, stopped and said hi to whoever was working here because it was always somebody that we knew, and he was talking about this band that he was forming. And at that point, Popeye and I we'd been in a band.
That band was?
That band was an embarrassment, but it was called Bottom Line, and it was me and him and Darren and a guy named Chris King, and we had broken up. Darren and I had moved on to Yuckmouth. Popeye was just getting over
Borderline?
No, he wasn't in. He was just getting out of Borderline. I guess he was in Borderline, or I don't know where that came in. I know that was before Farside. I think he was playing guitar in Borderline, and he had just gotten over mono or something because it was in a senior year of high school. That summer he got mono. And so Rob was talking about like we need to find a singer, and I said, yeah man, you need to talk to Popeye. And he's like, no dude, I don't want anybody that yells. I want somebody that can actually sing and carry a tune, which meant I was out. And I'm like, dude, you got to talk to Mike, man. Like the guy can write. I mean, when we were in Bottom Line, he was writing stuff that was way more advanced than the rest of us. He was writing stuff that I couldn't sing. He was singing stuff that I couldn't sing. Then he went to Borderline for 20 minutes or so, played guitar, but I don't think they ever used him for singing in that. And so I convinced Rob to give him a shot to at least try out. I'm like, you got to talk to Mike. You've got to at least give him a shot. And so he finally gave Popeye a shot at trying out for the band. And then, I guess through default, they never told him no. So he became the singer in Farside, and there's that story. So,
albums and years later,
decades later, he's still singing those songs and lasted longer than everybody else but Bob in the band, And so, and then the run out. So here's another fun story about the run out slips. Again, you could pump the gas first. And then if somebody left, then, we'd write a run out slip. And it was, like I said, it was always, unless we actually saw the guy that did it, it was always a white lowered mini truck with a horseshoe antenna, like the TV antenna from Crocodile Dundee. And so one of the beauties of Campus Gas is right across the way was this pizza place, Chicago Pizza. that still arguably is one of the best pizza places I've ever had. And so I think the morning shift was 6 to 10. And I think it was usually like I would work the morning shift, or Brian Goodson would work the morning shift, and then I'd come in for second shift, or Jeff Goodson would come in for second shift, whatever it was. So whoever worked the morning shift would hang out, burn an hour for overtime, in theory, you know, clean some stuff up until it was 11 when Chicago Pizza would open up. And then there would be a run out of a white mini truck for $10.76. And then at 11:30, they'd walk the pizza over. And then, so the morning shift and the middle shift would have a pizza on a run out. Then 3-4 hours later, there would be another run out of a white lowered mini truck. And then they'd walk another pizza over, and we would wind up eating, like, the first shift would have pizza with the second shift would have pizza with the third shift would have pizza with the fourth shift. So we would have, I mean, on your average day, we'd have 2 to 4 pizzas delivered over here at any given time.
And and no one ever said anything. No one ever said, hey, you know, can someone keep an eye on this white lowered mini truck?
So that story came up when I was playing golf with Jay about 1.5 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, man, I mean, we got so many free pizzas, and, you know, that white lowered. And he's like, wait a second. I always was confused. Like, why weren't you guys, when you saw the dude with the white truck come in, like, why didn't you stop him from pumping gas?
So Popeye's brother wasn't in on it?
He wasn't in on it, and he never figured it out after, you know, I mean, which seems ridiculous, but after like 3 pizzas a day, every day for like 2 years, it never crossed his mind that it was us just writing tickets for free pizza. I mean, it was amazing. It was, yeah. So, and he was just like, I mean, I remember it was like the middle of his backswing when he figured it out, and he was just like, wait a second, what? Oh no, man. Yeah, because it was, you know, he had to write it off and talk to, you know, the owner never mentioned it because he wasn't really participating. So we kind of had a longer leash than we probably should have at 18, 19 years old. And, you know, I mean, it was the only place in town that was hiring bald hooligans, you know. I mean, it was the only place that you could get like Keith McCullough, Brian Chu, Paul Simon, me, like all like, oh yeah, let's all have them work for us. It was
right.
Yeah,
right.
It was amazing. And then Uni High School is just like maybe a mile down the street that way. And so, you know, they would get off of high school and come over because they were all still in high school at the time. And so then they would all come down here and, you know, like skateboard over after work and relieve Jeff Goodson or Brian Goodson because we were at Orange Coast College. So we had more flexible schedules. And then, you know, they'd clock in and order a pizza. And that was, yeah, that's how we lived.
Is that what you meant when you said Pie Boys? Is that what, or is that something different?
So again, the late 80s was a weird, you know, there was, like we had in Huntington had the Sloth Crew, right? And so there was another group of people that came up with the Orange County Pie Boys, which was, we were a pizza eating gang, and the motto was die for pie. And then eventually Will Heflin from Huntington Beach and Jeff Goodson had a more violent offshoot, Nutter Butter 13 Crazy Insane Cookie Gang, and Trace, I believe it was called, and that was, but it was all just jokes.
Which the Sloth Crew was too.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it was just an excuse to hang out, and in Irvine they thought it was an actual gang, so there was a gang of kids from Irvine called the Los Suicicos Bomb Squad, which is ridiculous in itself.
Anyone that you knew or just totally?
Oh yeah, we all knew each other. But they would, you know, they would spray paint, and so then we would run by and spray paint after them and like cross their name out and write Pie Boys. So they legitimately got mad at us and like thought it was some disrespect thing, which I think was more of a lack of respect thing. And but then the Irvine Police eventually like had gang files on the Pie Boys and the Suicidals, which they were trying to actually be gang members.
Did they ever talk to you guys, the police?
A couple of, oh yeah, oh the police. In fact, there was one time standing in this very corner. Again, we would meet up here, park the cars, and then we would go Spanky's, Country Club, you know, whatever show was going on, or just go, you know, somewhere up bowling alley or something. But there was one time that a bunch of people went out. It was a bunch of the guys from Half Off and Haywire, and, you know, Billy and Rick and Brian and Jeff Goodson and a bunch of them. And they had all parked here, again, because it was like the middle ground, transferred all the guns into like maybe 2 or 3 cars, and then headed
Why
out.
did they have guns?
They were going, everybody's going shooting out in the desert. Like I was, you know, I mean, every once in a while we would just go shooting and, like, you know, shoot Vanilla Ice records or old TVs or whatever we had on hand that would make noise and pop. And so they came back and were eating pizza, again, based on a run out from across the street. And the police rolled up and started asking questions. And the next thing you know, there was just like 20 or 25 guns all like laid out on the parking lot. And the police went through and looked at every serial number and, you know, like gave them a whole bunch of shit about that. Because again, they thought it was, and that got chalked up. I talked to a cop later on in life, and he was like, dude, the Pie Boys, they were well armed, and, you know, like, they thought it was something legit when it was just, I mean, all the guns were legit, and it was just people eating pizza and like shooting in the desert out up in India or somewhere, killing a day. And
so there was some gunplay, but having nothing to do with actual people.
Having nothing to do with violence. Yeah,
right.
People shooting 22s at, like, you know, like I said, Vanilla Ice records or whatever was in the 99-cent bucket at Pure Records. So, and then there was an incident, another incident that was not Pie Boys related. Again, UCI is right across the street from us, and they had the UCI Bren Center that would occasionally have. There was a time that they would occasionally have music, and it wasn't often. But like Suicidal Tendencies played there one time because they were banned from LA, so they came and played here because it, you know, was cross county line or whatever. And Sublime.
So you're banned in LA, but come and play Irvine.
Yeah, exactly. Which all the idiots came down, and, you know, it was the same thing. It was the same group of people. They just had to drive an extra 10 miles. But one of the shows that was there was Sublime was the headliner. That's all I remember. I don't remember who else was at the show. But there was, again, Brian, Jeff, and I don't remember everybody that was there. And truth be told, I wasn't there. I just remember the story. But it was the Goodson twins, Paul Simon, Mark Lee, Brian Chu, and I think other couple ancillary, you know, younger kids that were like in their like 14s, which I think Paul Simon and Chu were only like 16 when they worked here. I think they needed work permits for here, but I guess during the Sublime set, there was a couple of the sports types from UCI, the wrestlers or baseball team or whatever, that were like, as the 14-year-olds were, you know, running around in a circle, were just laying these kids out, like picked out the bald kids and just laid them out.
Remember what year this was?
This is probably 1989.
Okay.
You know, like, because this started, like, our version of Campus Gas started it like mid to late 1988, and then I think it wound up by like early 1990 or so. So it was only about a year and a half, 2 years that Campus Gas was the place that we hung out. But I remember, so anyway, so these guys were like laying dudes out, and they were knocking over the 15-year-olds, and so Brian Goodson was pretty good at regulating things every once in a while. And so he walked over and told him, you know, like, hey, don't, you know, you got to cut the shit and stop knocking our people over, like knock our friends over. And so it kind of stopped in the show. And then when the show got out, and I believe most of the guys were wearing the same campus gas shirts that we all, I mean, it was our work uniform and everybody had extras at home. So they'd go to shows wearing all the same shirt just to kind of identify each other. And so by the end of it, they were walking through the parking lot, and this dude and like 6 or 7 of his buddies and the 5 or 6 guys that were with us, that were all, you know, campus gas related. You know, the guy, he was probably drunk and started getting tough and started picking on, you know, like, I don't know, they squared off in some fashion. And I think he may have made from the way I remember the story, was he may have made some racial slur to Brian Chu, who was like in the front line, and Chu tagged him, and the two of them kind of squared off, but it created a melee. Like, you know, now there's just Goodsons and Paul Simon, like people flying, all, you know, Mark Lee, whatever. They all just kind of went at it. And as soon as that happened, like from everywhere, like all the police lights came on, and I guess they had been in the background watching to see what would happen. And then as soon as the lights came on, you know, again, a bunch of bald kids, a bunch of kids that went to UCI and were in the sports industry there, you know, they looked more favorable at the UCI sports guys until they found out. And my favorite part of the story, as I always heard it, was the dude that Brian was going at was like, at the end of it, was just kind of like bent over, huffing and puffing and breathing deep and, you know, trying to get his breath back as he's talking to the cops. And Brian had split his lip from, like, you know, his lip to his chin. He had just opened this dude up. And he was like some 20-year-old sports guy. And I think Brian was 15 or 16 at the time. And that was enough to get the cops were like, dude, you just got your ass tuned up by a 15-year-old? Like, and so they, you know, all right, you guys go that way, you guys go that way. And then became, that was another group that it wound up becoming known as the Campus Gas Brawl Crew. And so then
a subdivision
again of the Pie Boys and the Nutter Butters and the Campus Gas Brawl Crew, again mostly just to irritate the police. You know, I mean, that wound up getting spray painted around mostly as an irritation of the police and the suicidal gang, the local suicidal gang. There was a bunch of, you know, Irvine kids. It was all ridiculous, completely ridiculous.